All right, thanks. So what we're trying to build today is a simple milk collection app. So this person is going to go, he's in a, let's say he's in a small town, he's going to different places to collect milk from different people. And he's going to use his app to record his progress, how much milk he's collecting from different people, etc. So what we see over here is what we call the ZORP builder. So when our users log into the sign up to ZORP, very simple way to sign up, and log in first time to the dashboard. So they'll have access to the ZORP builder, right? So ZORP builder is a place where you visually build these applications through a simple what you see is what you get interface, right? So here we will name our workflow as a update, and the name gets updated, right? Now, before we start, I want to give some introduction. So anything and everything in ZORP works on top of workflows. So because we are focused on internal applications are super process oriented. That means they have multiple states, how the user moves from one state to another based on the progress they actually make. So that is easily defined in terms of a process flow. So what you see in front of you is a simple process. We have a couple of steps and how users moves from one step to the other. Now, before we go ahead and start designing, Tarun, like what all different steps are involved in a milk collection process?
Yeah. So I think in this whole operations, I have 2 or 3 steps here in this process where I think I have to reach the house of the person. Then once I reach the house, I collect a few details about how much amount of milk I have collected and few other details around milk. And the last part is that yeah, I've taken an image of the process that yeah, I've received the milk kind of thing is what I'll say.
Got it. So the first step is basically information about a particular
The destination of the house.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. And what you said is the second step?
Data entry about the activity done at the house, like how much amount has been collected, what is the type of milk.
Got it.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to remove this because we have multiple steps. So we have step number 1, which is like the initial one. The second is the data collection part, and the third is simple completed, right? So very simple application.
Correct.
Now, okay, so we have one step and we move to the second one. And from the second step, we move to the third one. Okay, so this is how from the first step, after the first step is completed, the person moves to the second step. From the second step, he moves to the third step. Very simple application.
Understood.
Now let's,
So how do I start showing the data from these systems here?
Right. Yeah. So before showing the data, we will just open any of these step, and you will get the visual app that you're going to see. Right. Okay. Right now the screen is simply empty, but you wanted to show some information, right? So the way you do that is by using some of these components that you have available over here on the left. So these are UI components. All you have to do is just drag and drop, and you can start entering this information. Like for example, let's say this is a milk collection app and I want to show some information. I just drag and drop the text component. Okay. And here I can start providing, let's say this is instructions, enter details about milk collected. Okay. So this is a simple static information. Now, let's say we are collecting milk from a specific farmer. Okay, so I want to show the farmer's name and farmer's address. So how do I do that? Again, drag and drop a text component, and I can show that this is a farmer's name. Now, the obvious question that you asked is, how do I send information to this particular application? Because I can't simply enter farmer's name, right? Let's say Rahul Gupta. I have to pass this information dynamically to this application. In traditional software development, the way it happens is by, you end up having some kind of a database where the data comes in, and you need that data to show it over here, etc. Right? So very similar principles. Every application in ZORP is accompanied by its own database, right? Now, for us to, instead of like statically writing this information, we can also choose a particular data point from the data in the database. We call it data fields. right? So click this icon over here. So here you'll be able to see all the data that you have available to use in your application. Unfortunately, all the, ZORP provides a lot of default data points, like what is the timestamp of when the task is created, or which account does it belong to, who is the user who is using it, the location of the person, etc., etc. But none of this satisfies the condition that this should be the farmer's name.
Okay.
Right? So what happens when you have some custom information, like you need your own fields, right? So very simple. Just go back. You have this button called configure data fields. You'll see the same data information over here. And when you want to add your own custom data field, all you have to do is just click on create a farmer name. And this, you choose what type of field it is. So we have text, number, boolean, like pretty much all the fields that you would actually need.
Okay.
So name is going to be a text.
Yeah.
Want to provide a default value, you can provide, but in this case, not exactly right. Okay.
Correct.
And there is this checkbox which actually says collect this data field as an input when the task is created. Okay. So if you think about like the farmer's name is usually passed when the task is actually created to the person, that this is a farmer you're supposed to go to. Right?
Okay.
When data points are coming as input, just check this checkbox. So whenever you want to create a task to go collect from a particular farmer, yeah, so in this case, we'll be able to collect. So there will be a field that will help you collect this information at the time of creating a task. So I'm going to click create. Now the field is created. So open back the farmer's name. So I can open my data, and in the data, I have farmer's name available. I just click on save it. Now, whatever information you pass as farmer's name, it'll dynamically appear over here. You'll just read the data field and show it over here.
Brilliant. Yeah, so let's collect all the, let's show the
yeah, so probably the address will show, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Let's say farmer's address. We don't have an address data field. I'm going to create one quickly. So I'll say address. And I can, we have a specific type of data called location, which can store text data fields and also latitude and longitude dynamically. This also needs to be collected as an input, and I hit create. Okay, so farmer's address is actually created, and I'm going to use this in the application. So go back in farmer's address. I just open my data. I have address, and I'm going to use a text address over here.
Understood.
Now, one thing is text address, but how do I navigate? Nowadays, nobody remembers text address, right? So people always use maps to navigate. How do I show maps in this case? So I have a maps component. I'm going to drag and drop over here. So you have the map available. So instead of the latitude and longitude over here, I can simply choose the latitude and longitude from the farmer's address. Okay, so this way, the user will use Google Maps to get turn-by-turn navigation to that particular farmer's location. So this as farmer location. All right.
All right.
Cool. Does this suffice? What do you think? What else do you think we should add?
Yeah, I think this is the right first step to reach the farmer's house to collect the milk.
Got it. We'll probably rename this next to something like reach, right? So
yeah. So
next, just click on any transition. The transition basically corresponds to the button you saw on the previous screen. So I'm going to change this to, reach.
Okay.
Okay. So now you open it, the button will automatically change to reach. Simple. Now, what do we do when we actually reach? So I'm going to open the next step. I'm going to call this as collect data. Okay. So here, what do you want to collect?
Yeah. So we'll collect the type of milk, amount, volume of milk he's collecting at the farmer's house.
Perfect. So type of milk, I'm assuming there are like probably a couple of types, cow milk, right?
Yes.
So I can use a checkbox drop down, but radio is more apt, I think. So I'm going to drag and drop a radio component. I'm going to say milk type. I'm going to give him a couple of options, which is cow or okay. And yeah. So now the important thing is, just like how we are able to read data from a database and see it. When we collect data in this form, we need to write the data back into a database. Otherwise, we'll end up losing it once the task is completed. So we can write whatever user chosen information back to a database. So how do we do that? There is this option to save this data, right? So I click over here. I can choose any data type I want. So as you can see, only specific data like text data is actually allowed for us to select. Like I can't select anything else, right? The reason is because ZORP automatically determines what is the right type of data field I can choose to write this data into. But in this case, I don't want to overwrite my farmer's name. I need a new field. Okay, so I'm going to create a new data field from here. So I say milk type. I can't change it because it needs to be a text for me to store this. I hit create. Now, whatever information I collect over here, it will get stored into milk type.
Nice.
Okay. What else?
Pictures. It can be a picture of the milk can and amount of milk.
Quantity, quantity is good.
Quantity.
So probably will correct quantity. So I'm going to use a number input over here. So we have text inputs, number inputs. I'm going to use a number input. Let's say milk quantity. And again, we'll create another data field, and this automatically becomes number. So I'm going to say milk quantity. Done. So the last step is we'll collect some pictures. I drag and drop a camera component, which gives me the ability to collect pictures. So here, I'll probably call this milk picture. I can choose whether I allow him to take pictures only via camera or only via gallery or both. So probably I'll allow only camera, right? And I say minimum you have to collect one image. So you can't pass without submitting images. Just like how we discussed before, I'm going to save this data into a data field. Just click on create new one and say milk pictures.
Understood.
Done. Anything else you'd want to do?
No, I think this at the house we'll just do that, or we can just ensure one more add a field where if the test has been performed, basic test, milk testing is what I can.
So I'm going to use a notes component. You just want to get some like notes, right? Is that
correct? Yeah.
So I'm going to use additional notes and additional notes. Okay, so there's a text field. People can write any text they want. Again, I'm going to create a new data field and I'm going to call it notes. So all the information you collect over here will be saved into notes. Simple. So similarly, we have the ability to collect signature. We can even collect payments. We can show images. We have a super complicated component called list, which will help you manage data dynamically. But probably we'll stick to like what we have actually done today. Anything else you would like to add?
No, I think this is good enough at the farmer's place for now.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Yeah.
So now we just, I think that's done, right? Like once you collect the information, it's done.
Yeah, I'll be most likely understand what is my next task or next step, please. Yeah.
So I'm going to simply say, congratulations, you have collected the milk from, I'm going to use the farmer's name again. Collected, I'll even include the quantity. So collected.
Correct.
Quantity. Got it. 12 liters of milk from farmers, right? Okay, our application is actually.
Yeah, so others has one of question where he's asking, can we integrate external things into the workflow?
Got it. Yeah, can you you want to like all the information you have collected over here, you probably want to push it to your central ERP or a CRM or whatever, right? Is that a fair understanding?
Adarsh, you want to confirm?
It's about integrating external apps like QuickBooks or something, right?
Yeah.
And then drive it from your particular app.
Perfect. So let's say I'm going to assume that this like all the information I'm collecting over here, I want to push it in real time to my like ERP or whatever system is, right? It will differ. Like in some cases it will be a CRM, some cases it will be an ERP, some cases it will be, let's say QuickBooks, etc. So how do I go about doing that? It's very simple. So the idea is that whenever the person clicks on the next button, or we'll probably call this submit. Okay, so whenever he clicks on submit, all the data we have collected before, we want to push it to an external system. So submit. And how do I do that? So it's very simple. When you click on any transition, there is something called actions. Okay, so actions is our infrastructure for you to run some kind of automations. So I'm going to click on add action. We have multiple types of actions, the ability to send push notifications. You can dynamically create some data fields, etc. But the one we are talking about is a simple REST API action. So I'm going to click on REST API. And here I can provide the API schema of whatever system that you have. So that we actually accommodate whatever API schema that system has. We don't define ourselves what the schema should be. So that means you have all the flexibility to integrate with whatever systems you want. So let's take an example here. So I'll say that ERP, I provide the different methods. I can provide the URL. Why don't we do a live test? So I'm going to use this third-party system called webbook.site, which provides webhooks on demand. Okay, so this works like any other API. So if you have your own Zoho systems or a QuickBooks system, you just copy their API. They'll have their own URL. So all we are doing is just using a temporary service to manage this. Okay, so you just provide the URL. If you have any authentication, you can provide the headers and other things. And then you can go into the body and you can start providing the body information. So I can do things like some static text saying that collection is completed. Or I can also do dynamic information like farmer name is farmer name, right? But yep, this is not it. We are slightly more advanced. Now, let's say you want to, like, you can't simply enter simple text information. You want to manipulate it. Your integration is going to be slightly more nuanced. We also provide a flexible ability to write simple JavaScript snippets. Okay, this becomes extremely powerful when your integrations or systems become like super complex, right? So the same information. So I can say do things like I can send like what is a message? Is milk collection is, and I can say what is the farmer name? And I can say task.data farmer name. And similarly, I can provide, milk
quantity.
Data milk quantity. I can add pictures. I can add pretty much whatever it is, right? So I run. The sample data looks okay. So this is because like the data is currently junk, but I can update the mock data to say that the samples farmer's name is, Rahul, and farmer's address we're not using, milk type, let's say, is cow, and milk quantity is, let's say, 2 liters. So submit and I run. So the data is up, right? So we've made this integration. So I'm going to save it. So now when we execute our application, this data should be pushed to this particular API. So we'll see that in action in a second. All right. Any other question?
Yeah, so Prithvi has another question. Let's say there's a change in the decision flow. The farmer, the person reaches the farmer and is not available. Can we have a change in the state?
Absolutely. So that's actually a very, very good question. So now the person actually, like, let's say he reaches, right? So when he reaches, you want to ask some questions saying that, hey, is the farmer at home? So I'm going to use the radio component over here. Okay, so I have something like yes, and I have something like no. Okay, so now based on whether he says yes or no, I want to dynamically give different screens to it. Okay, so how do we do that? It's very simple. first, before we forget everything. So we need to save this data somewhere. So I'm going to create a new data field and say farmer availability. Okay. Now, if farmer availability is yes, I want to take him to the regular flow. Farmer availability is no, I'm going to take him to like, hey, like the failure flow.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So the way we do that is that we have a special component called a decision node. Okay, so which is very simple to like a switch, if I like multiple switches, if you know programming a little bit, right? So the way it works is that I'm going to delete this reach. Okay, so I put the decision node in between, and the app moves into the decision node. And if for data collects, if the farmer is available, I want him to go to this screen. If the farmer is not available, I will go to probably this one. Okay, so this is simple. So how do you configure that? I'm going to open the switch. I'm going to open the condition. So I'll do a simple expression check. So expression check gives us to run any kind of like conditions you want. So here, all I have to do is return stars dot data dot farmer availability equal to yes. All right. So, oh, I have to say it this way. Okay. So yeah, if the farmer availability yes, you go into the first condition. If the farmer availability is no or anything other than yes, you go here. Okay. So here I can say like, you know, sorry, is not available or whatever.
Yeah. Try later.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just giving some dummy information. We also need to name this. So okay, so this is how we do that.
Understood.
All right. Any other question, or should we go ahead with the testing part?
I guess we can go ahead.
All right.
So how does it work? How do we test this out now?
Perfect. So when your flow is actually ready, all you have to do is just hit publish. Okay. The moment you hit publish, your flow is completely ready and you can start using it on your phone. It's as simple as that. Now you can download the ZORP app from App Store or Play Store using the QR code or the link over here. So I've already installed, so I'm going to skip this step. And I'm going to start creating the milk collection task. So I just hit on create task. And now, so I have so many tasks which are actually workflows which are actually already created, right? So a bunch of different ones. So the one I created right now is called a milk collection. Okay. So the moment you hit publish, what ZORP automatically does is that it automatically creates a form using which you can create these tasks. Okay. So I'm going to give a sample address. I'm going to give latitude and a sample longitude. Farmer's name was also an input. I'm going to say that farmer's name is Rahul. Okay, I hit create. Oh, I have to provide a team. So ZORP also, because we are internal focused, we by default provide a framework for you to create your teams. Teams means your entire org structure, the users in your team, and also like the role-based access control for them. So we'll kind of skip this a little bit because it's its own topic by itself. So this is the user I have logged into. So I'm going to use the same user. You see here. So hit create. Now the task is created. I can start executing. Right. So before I go ahead and start executing it, this is not the only way for you to create these tasks. Okay. So you hit back. So here, apart from creating these tasks one by one, you also have an ability to create these tasks in bulk. So you choose bulk task and you say milk collection. And here you can upload a CSV and create thousands, thousands or hundreds, whatever you want. And not only this, ZORP automatically creates an API also. It creates a REST API. That means if you want to initiate these tasks either from a CRM or ERP or your own auto management system, you can actually do that, do the integration and do this in real time, right? All these things get ready for you like right away. Now that our task is created, if you see, we just created a milk collection task. I'm going to share my app phone screen, and I'm going to show you how do we execute this particular task. Okay.
Folks, this is what the person using the app will feel like and see like.
All right. Can you folks see my app?
Yes.
All right. So this is my iPhone, right? So, and I have the ZORP app already installed. So you can install it today from Play Store or App Store. All you have to do is just click on it, and you will have the ability to log in. Like by default, it will be offline. So you'll be logged out with the same credentials, whatever you used over there. All you have to do is just log in, and you'll be able to see all the tasks that are actually assigned to you. Okay. So if you remember, we just created a task for milk collection. So that's shown over here. So each task will appear like a card, and you have complete flexibility to customize how this card actually looks like, right?
Okay.
So let's start executing. Why wait? So all I have to do is just click on this. Okay. So if you remember, the farmer's name is automatically added, the farmer's address, and this is the location I gave as a lat long. For me to go to this location, I can click on this, and I can get into Google Maps to get turn-by-turn navigation. I can come back, and we have the question available. Is the farmer available? Yes or no? So let's say I say yes, and I click next. I am automatically taken to the yes screen. Okay, so here I'm going to use, let's say, cow. I'm going to say this is 10 liters. So if you see, this is a number component. I can't enter any other text. I need to take pictures. So I'm going to take a couple of pictures over here. So I'll take one, I'll take two, and I'll take three. And while the image is uploading, I'm going to add additional notes. All is successful. Right. So once it's done, I hit submit. Rahul has collected 10 liters of milk. Okay. So if you remember, we also did a simple API integration. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the webhook over here. And this is the current time, 9:06 p.m. So 9:06 p.m. we have an event coming in. I'm going to open that event. We see that the message, the farmer's name, and the milk quantity already pushed to the XML system. So if we have integrated your own ERP or your own like QuickBooks or anything, this information should be readily available in that system instantly.
Understood. So Bala, Kaushik has one of the questions, which says that can we collect lat long from the device or add a validation at a certain vicinity of the destination?
Absolutely, that's a fantastic question, right? So now let's say my basic app is ready, but now I want to implement some validations. So how do I do that? Just go back to the workflows, open the workflow we just created. Now, let's say when he says, oh, we have not marked as reach, so I'm going to name this as reach. Let's say he reaches the location. I don't want him to allow until he is actually at within 100 meters or 200 meters of the farmer's location. So the way I do that is that in any transition, I can switch on location collection. Okay. So once I switch on means at any time he clicks a button, we will collect the location. And this is a location you can save it to your data. You can analyze it later. All those things are possible. Now, the second thing is, let's say I want to add a validation, right? So there is something called conditions. Conditions is basically a check before you actually proceed ahead. Okay. So add a condition. There are two types of conditions we have today. So one is an expression guard, which is something we already saw, which is generic expression-based conditions. There is a specific location-based condition. You open it. I can do a location check. I can enter the first lat long, which is in our case is probably could be the customer lat long. Okay, task.data.farmer address latitude. Okay, and here it will be farmer address longitude. Similarly, here I can use logged in users location. Okay, so I can use, in this case it became the longitude. So I can use the logged in users latitude and logged in users longitude. I can give what is the maximum different distance I want to allow. So 50 meters, 100 meters, 200 meters. So if you are in like a super tier 2 cities where the network is not so good, I would probably give a little more extension. In high density areas or where the network is actually pretty good, I can give a lower distance, right? So I just hit save. Now this location check will be applied, and only when he's within this particular location, particular distance, when he presses reach, he'll be allowed to proceed. Otherwise, he won't be.
Brilliant.
All right. And when you make this change, right, one other important thing is, let's say you want to collect locations, all you have to do is just hit publish. Now, from the next task onwards, all these changes you have made to the app is instantly live. There is no more waiting, right? Now, while we pushed some of the information through the webhook, we also want to see other information. So you can just go to the same task and reopen the same task. And all the information we have collected before is available over here. Like, for example, the images. I just click on an image. I can simply download. I open this and I can see the image that I've uploaded in real time from the dashboard itself. That means while integration option is fully available for you, if you're an early stage company, you don't have the bandwidth to do this, get this API from your internal systems, or you're waiting for something, or you just want to test it before you do the integration, this data is always available in ZORP for you to access and use. All right.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions?
Folks, feel free to ask any type of questions with respect to building flows or app, any other thing.
Hey, this is Uday. So I just wanted to check, the kind of analytics that Google or Adobe first. What kind of analytics can we, expect or to generate from ZORP? This is more of a last mile delivery use case that you have developed. Imagine there is a platform that I've built. The content wise, how do we go about it? How do we get the user behavior on my app or such analytics related components that we can build on ZORP?
Got it. Yeah. So you're saying we want to show analytics on the mobile app. Is that your question? Or you want to consume the data which is collected in the app for your internal?
Consume the data collected on the app. Generate few analytics, few information on how the customer behavior is modeled, which section he might be visiting more. I mean, I'm looking more of a, the platform-based driven where I have a content which the user is consuming, not a specific use case or like we have in a last mile delivery. There is a certain task which we have created, right? What would happen when I don't have a task where I have a let's take a normal blog or a I don't know, maybe blog plus some other website, right? Where I have my D2C channels built on top of my website, which could I could land them onto my website to like in a Google Analytics, you have a certain goal added to it. There is a conversion rate that we also get. I'm looking more on that side.
Makes sense. Yeah. So the important thing over here is that pretty much anything you want to build in ZORP actually works on top of workflows, right? The internal term we use is task, but may not be applicable for all the industries per se. But pretty much everything is configured in terms of workflows. Now, one of our customers has actually implemented this. They share content with their internal teams, and they get some kind of an acknowledgement whether somebody has read the content, somebody has acknowledged that they have read it, etc. So that's something they actually track. So the way to do that is that, let's say in this screen, you want to show like a full text content, an image content, let's say a video, and finally you have a question saying that you can even ask some questions about the content you have actually shown over here. And you can also track some information saying how many people have, completed this particular, content reading or content writing or whatever. Now, any option they choose over here, like for example, if they've chosen a particular option or they've clicked a button or they've taken any action over here. So this information is something you can push via API to your internal systems. And also, if you simply don't want to push it to an external API, you just want to store it, you can collect the information and store it in the ZORP database itself. So that is something that's possible.
Okay, understood.
Cool. I guess, Bala, I think we are we can go with a small workshop if everyone is interested in hands-on thing.
Perfect.